interaction. We were connecting over my need for a stroller, and the stroller gained significance because of that interaction. She was there with me when I took my first real walk after Aaron was born, and then later on when I used the stroller, I often think about her. Many business choices are like this. If a friend recommends a restaurant, for example, you're validating that friend's opinion by going to that restaurant, and it becomes a bit of a shared experience, even if you go to that restaurant without your friend. So another example, at Local Matters, we've had some success with sites and functionality that combine a sense of community with local business search. And I want to show you an example with GuideSpot.com. GuideSpot is a social local site that we launched more than a year ago to explore the concept of local social stories. So we wanted to get at something that was beyond simple ratings and reviews. GuideSpot at its core is a service for creating and sharing guides about anything, and the functionality that you can include in your guide includes things like editorials, local businesses, attractions, and maps. One of our goals was, as I said, was to move beyond ratings and reviews because it gives authors the ability to add more context around the business recommendations that they're making. And it gives the visitors a lot better sense of the point of view of the speaker. The site also works to foster connections between users and encourages users to reach out to their social network. In this sense, I'm getting at what I was describing before. A recommendation that provides context and a clear point of view is worth more than an anonymous single-sentence review. So far, we've had over 1.8 million people join in the GuideSpot community, which is pretty impressive given that we started with no brand recognition and we've not really spent much money on doing marketing to the site. After I struggled to find resources for things that I needed when I was pregnant, I created a guide that helps show other people in Denver some resources that they might need when they're preparing for a baby. Now, I didn't do this for strangers, though. I really sort of did it for people who were in situations like me. When you go to GuideSpot, you can get an idea of me and my point of view by looking at all of the different guides that I've created. So it begins to create that context. GuideSpot is hitting a need. We've seen solid growth in guide building since we launched, and organic search engine traffic is increasing 40% every month. But I don't think GuideSpot's the perfect solution either. It's only really one type of information that's interesting to consumers, and the other problem with it is that a guide takes a really long time to write, and so it's hard to get users to contribute that level of in-depth content. So let's take a look at another angle on this. Some people argue that Twitter or Facebook can answer the social search need, but I'm not quite sure that's true. Let's take a look at an example. I wasn't on Facebook when I was pregnant, and I didn't have a Twitter account then either, but recently I've done some things to try and see how I can leverage that network for local recommendations. So I sent, recently I've been thinking about Aaron's college tuition. In the United States, university tuition is a lot of money, and parents start saving, or in my case, just worrying and not saving for this. We start as soon as our kids are born. So I was looking for some advice about a financial advisor. I posted up this question into Twitter. There's a little application that links Twitter and Facebook, so it also got posted into my Facebook account. I didn't get any responses on Twitter. I got a couple responses on Facebook, but they don't provide a lot of really good information. There's a few short answers. There's one non-answer. So that wasn't really helpful to me. And in thinking about this, I guess I'm not really that surprised. To get a recommendation from your social network, I think you need to have a really big social network. That helps a lot. I also think that people need to be paying attention, which isn't always the case with broadcast mediums like Twitter and Facebook. Friends also need to know local businesses in order to make recommendations for you. And so if they're not local, they're not going to be able to make those recommendations. I know they also have to have recent experience. So if somebody had experience with a financial planner 10 years ago, they're probably not going to be able to recommend something to me now. I do think there's an important element here. I think social networks are an important ingredient in the social local search problem, but I don't think they're the solution all by themselves. So nobody's gotten it right yet, which I think is an opportunity for us, for all of us in this room. I think that we're in a similar position to what search engines looked like in the 90s. Sites like Alta Vista and Lycos were premier search engine sites, and I think a lot of us thought that they'd continue to make incremental improvements to their site, and that would be search innovation. But, of course, there were some guys at Stanford who didn't think that way, and they created something that became big called Google. So I'm going to lay out what I see as the ideal, or some of the components for an ideal local search solution. And it comes from both my experiences as a consumer, but also from working with directory publishers around the world at Local Matters and at other companies. So first, an ideal solution doesn't make me go out of my way. It comes to me. 10 years ago, I might have taken the time to find the most authoritative site for any single purpose. But these days, I visit Facebook and Google and a few other sites, and I prefer services that will work in the context of my current online habits. We've talked a lot about syndication at this conference. I think that's one of the keys to this. I do use Facebook and Twitter to get recommendations, but as I described before, the results are spotty. Local search tools that respond to my queries inside of those environments would be very helpful to me. And I don't know if you saw yesterday, Praised announced that they've launched their Answers product in Yellow Pages Canada. And in that experience, you can actually ask a question on the site, and then that question can also be posted out to your network in Facebook and Twitter, which I think is pretty helpful. An ideal solution provides common tools and methods for connecting with businesses. I don't want to have to figure out new tools and functionality for every different business that I want to interact with. And that can happen if I go to all of those different websites for all those different small businesses. If I want to schedule an appointment or just ask a question, it would be nice to have a consistent and familiar way to do it. This is something that we've been thinking a lot about for our next version of our main product destination search. We've seen the success that's happening with restaurant bookings and ticket search, and we're looking to open up this level of integration to all business categories. An ideal solution gives me a complete picture of what a business is all about. Amazon has 500 different ways to help me select a book.